We have a question from a spiritual seeker. So they say, I have been on the seeker's path for over 20 years, and while I don't think I have had an awakening, I have had many glimpses and have found much peace and happiness in the ongoing inquiry of who I am. You and few other people who provide pointers are such a gift. But I have been feeling quite stuck on thoughts around compassion, about my ability and choice to assist certain people in my life who have disabilities and illness. I'm digging my heels in, so to speak, about seeing these people, but then feel guilt-ridden when I don't. I have listened to a few of your podcasts on relationship and changing and losing friendships. But while I have let go of other relationships, these two I find difficult because of their disabilities and need. The two relationships I speak of are with people I have known over 30 years who think of me as a close friend, although I don't. One is now wheelchair bound in their house, and the other with dementia. The wheelchair bound person I have had an art connection with over the years, but the relationship has now become more of an obligation for me. She has alienated many friends in her life by being verbally abusive and demanding. Also alienated her sister and her daughter. I think she is also an alcoholic. Her husband has been in long-term care for some years now. There have been many suggestions of her moving and getting more help, but she refuses. I'm not judging all of this, but visiting her even sporadically is very difficult for me. I admire her tenacity on keeping going. The person with dementia, I'm happy to take for walks, but there is an expectation from her partner that I will do more. I took care of my mother who had dementia for 7 years. I have many family members and close friends who I'm happy to be there for, and for my 98-year-old mother-in-law who needs some care. I think it hits all my feeling responsible and not being a good person buttons. I realize that people can become our greatest opportunity for growth and an opportunity to look inside ourselves. That is very true. I do feel compassion on this path, but my thoughts struggle between being a caring person and wanting to let go of these relationships that are fraught with illness. So the question is, and maybe other people struggle with this, how do I resolve or find inner peace in being compassionate, as we are so often told in spiritual circles, and wanting at 72 to have boundaries and care for myself? What makes up compassion? Okay, let's take it from the beginning, where you say that you have been on this path for 20 years, but you don't think you've had an awakening, but you have had many glimpses and have found much peace and happiness. That itself indicates that an awakening has happened. Awakening is not a dramatic experience in time. Anything that is time-bound is illusion, because time itself is an illusion. So awakening is this realization of peace and harmony in everything. then you talk about these two people in your life who you're having a hard time in letting go. Now, from this email, it becomes very clear that there has been a lot of giving in this relationship, but not receiving back. Now, I feel true disability is never at the physical level, but at the psychological level. A person may be physically limited because of certain conditions in life, but nothing stops them from self-reflecting about that disability and creating an open mind to embrace love and compassion that others are offering them. But if they're so caught up in their story, if they're so caught up with the idea that they have become incapacitated or disabled, that they cannot do anything, then actually nothing can be done to help. So you ask, what makes up compassion? I would say understanding one's true nature is the highest compassion. And Ramana Maharishi said that your own self-realization is the highest service to the world. I would ask you, what is most important to you in life? How would you answer this question? What is most important, most intimate to you in your life? My concept around this is my own peace of mind is the most important thing in my life. Now, it may sound selfish because, we are told in the so-called spiritual circles or worldly ways that we should be more compassionate with others and we should be peaceful with others. But here's the thing. If you're not peaceful yourself, you will be absolutely of no help or use or compassion to anybody. If your own peace of mind is not there, you really cannot do anything good for the other. So, first of all, one has to carefully examine as to why my peace of mind is being disrupted right now. And the answer is, my peace of mind is disrupted right now because I am moving away from my own nature. God has designed me a certain way, and I'm trying to move away from that. And in that, I'm feeling resentment. The need to be a good person, the need to take responsibility for others can disrupt one's peace. This message does not tell you that you have to be a good person. Spiritual people are not good people. They are simply aware. And that awareness by itself brings more and more peace into their life. So why am I so worried about these people? A part of me fears that if I lose these two people also, I will be completely left alone. And I'm afraid of that emptiness, that loneliness. And I feel that at least I have this, so why should I let this go? You see, our mind does not have this concept of good and bad or right and wrong. Mind clings to familiar experiences. And sometimes those experiences may be something like an abuse. That is why we hear the term trauma bonding. Because mind clings to trauma, because trauma seems familiar. Mind sometimes clings to drama, because drama seems familiar. While at the conscious level, we may keep saying we don't want any drama in life. We want peace and harmony and compassion. But you see, this is how the mind tricks us. We say these things, but deep down, there is a need. Don't leave me. So I would say compassion begins with oneself. If this examination of who am I is happening, then what you will notice is that there will be a natural, organic dispassion towards other people's stories and dramas. But the love will always be there. So I will give you one example. There was an artist, a very well-known, world-renowned artist from another country who came to visit India to meet a long-term friend who was also a well-known artist in India. And they had some discord in the past, and this artist from the other country, he said that, I want to make amends with my friend. I have not seen him for many years. I would like to meet him. So he sends the message that I'm coming to see you. And the friend in India, reluctantly says, okay, fine, come, but I'm not that excited to see you. But you can come. So he flies all the way from the other country and comes to India. And now he's staying in a hotel. So his friend in India says, I'm not going to come to your hotel. You have to come to my house. So this friend actually is now wheelchair bound. Who's from another country, who's staying in a hotel, is now wheelchair bound, and it's difficult for him to move. And his friend's house did not have an elevator. So what he did was he hired 7 people who actually brought him there to his friend's house and picked him physically and put him at his door, where he knocked the door. The moment he knocked the door and his friend came and saw him, his friend was in tears. He bowed his head, hugged him, cried and said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you were in such poor health. I'm so sorry. And this person from wheelchair, he says, hey, buddy, what are you even talking about? I wanted to see you. I'm so happy, so glad to see you. It doesn't matter. Now that is a true artist. An artist is not the one who merely has a skill, because there are many people in the world with amazing skills. But a true artist is the one who has this attitude towards the life, towards the flow of life, who accepts the flow of life with compassion and humility. So the disability was at the physical level because he was wheelchair bound, but it did not stop him from reaching out to his friend and making amends. And when he did that, he fully accepted that the consequences, or let's say the outcome, may be completely different too. And that is where the peace lies. So I will just say this much, that just the way universe has created you in a certain way, with your sensibilities, with your sensitivities, so has the same universe created these 2 people who are facing physical disabilities in their life right now, with their own sensitivities and conditioning, whatever that is. To accept that, to accept this arrangement is peace. But yes, the need to give despite not getting back comes from the separate self. So, I think it is perfectly okay to communicate that this is the way I feel after so many years. And I'm at a point in my life where I would like some peace for myself. So please forgive me if this offends you. But I need to be with myself with my own energy. And if truly this was a genuine relationship, they would understand and not guilt you for it. See, guilt is a very dangerous emotion in the sense that if it arises in the moment, because when, let's say you did something and it arises in the moment, it's helpful. But when it continues in horizontal time, as I should not have done this, I should have taken care of them because society expects me to do this, what will other people think of me? That is all the separate self talking. That is all this sense of personal identification that is completely identified with I must be a certain way. And then we lose our peace. But here's the thing, when we lose our peace, we are of no use to anybody. What attracts us to other people is their peace, not the way they act or behave. Even Nisargadatta Maharaj, who was a little, he was quite short-tempered, exuded a lot of peace because his temper was momentary. He would rage 1 minute and then next moment he would laugh. He never took anything and registered it. This registration causes resentment. So, in this, one has to look at oneself as why do I feel so obligated to continue this relationship when it is completely unequal? In relationship, two people have to do their respective actions because one-sided relationships never last. Do these people express gratitude for your time, patience, and energy? It doesn't require special abilities to express gratitude. Any human being with the highest level of disability has the capacity to express gratitude. Do they do it? If not, you can communicate to them, tell them that I feel exhausted because I've been doing this for very long and now it's time for me to self-reflect. And if they have compassion, they will understand. And if they don't have that compassion and they complain, then you have just freed yourself. So you see, we get caught up in our own mind's story. Am I doing the right thing or am I doing the wrong thing? And the Bhagavad Gita says that you cannot do either a right thing or a wrong thing because you are not the doer. The sense of doership creates guilt. I did this, I did that, I should not have done this, I should not have done that. That is what creates guilt, shame, malice, resentment, associating oneself as the doer of actions. Whereas there are so many forces acting on a human organism which are creating all this dynamic that we call life and life's movement. So I wrote an article on this, that artist is an instrument of God. And the only way the instrument can feel peace is when the instrument allows the impersonal energy to flow through it without taking ownership. Ownership that I did this or I did that. That is where the peace is. That is where the compassion is. Now, it is okay to have boundaries in relationship, but boundaries have to come from a place of love, not from a place of separation. And place of love is more concerned with oneself than with the other person. Because I feel that I don't want to be spoken to in a manner that disrupts my peace. And I can always assert that in my relationships with other people, no matter how close they are. I can certainly tell them that I do not appreciate being spoken to in this way. But that said, I don't carry a registration of hurt within me. You did this, you did that. It has been 30, 40 years. Why couldn't you take care of? All of that creates story of the mind which builds only resentment and hate. It has got nothing to do with the other person. What happened just happened. But now we are repeating that story incessantly in our mind, and every time we repeat that story in our mind, it grows stronger and stronger. And then we identify with that thinking, create more separation, and the more the separation, the more is pain and suffering in life. But when I accept that the other person, whatever they are facing in their life, has been destined for them by the universe, that they are living their blueprint, I can certainly offer compassion. I can say, I'm here if you need me for anything. But I will not tolerate abrasive language. These are my rules for communication, and you will not misuse this. You will not misuse, your this interaction, whatever we are experiencing together right now, because I'm here for you. But if you misuse that to vent or to emotionally load me, that's a misuse. That's crossing a limit, a boundary. And I'm not okay with it. That said, I create my peace. I communicate and I create my peace. And yes, sometimes it is very challenging when you have been with these people for so many years. It is challenging to confront them. But sometimes it has to be done. And when it's done, there is a feeling of so much relief. And many times that it actually improves the relationship. But yes, some people may not change. That is also a reality. So they will continue in that cycle of unconsciousness. They will keep resenting people. They will keep separating people. They are just living their blueprint. What can we do? But I can be peaceful within myself when I just separate myself from all that drama. I can offer compassion, but it will not come at the cost of my own well-being and peace. This investigation of who am I brings us to our very natural state, which is peace. And when we experience that more and more, and we become more calm, restful, that is when we become true magnets. That is when people want to associate with us. But where this spiritual realization happens, one is careful enough not to let other take advantage too, because that is also an act of compassion towards oneself. So a spiritual master, for example, can be very compassionate, but he's nobody's fool. He or she is nobody's fool. They are going to put boundary where necessary, but those boundaries will come out of compassion and love. They will never be about other person. They will be about their own peace and well-being, because that's their highest priority. Because they know deep down that if they become restless, agitated, they will be of no help to anybody, but they will actually be nuisance to people. So, this is a perfect opportunity to move away from all the advice of how we should be or should not be with people, but to self-reflect, sit in peace and quiet and reflect what one truly is. What is our true nature? And the more we rest in that presence, the more peaceful we become, the more our relationships actually start flourishing. Because we don't deceive our true nature. And then people start trusting us even more, because they see that we are not deceiving our true nature. So that means we are trustworthy people. And they start trusting us. The best thing to do in the relationship is to simply be with oneself, in that place of calm and restfulness. And nothing has to be done externally. Because we are given this advice that communication is important. And yes, you can communicate. Communication can happen. But that's a secondary stage. First is, do I know myself properly? Do I know why am I in this equation despite feeling so much resentment? Why am I holding on to these relationships in the first place? So there is a guilt. Guilt is separation. If I leave them, I will be termed as a horrible person by others. So one can certainly look into this. What is this separation? What is the nature of this separation? Because beyond this separation is peace. Again, I will repeat Ramana Maharishi's word. Your own self-realization is the highest service to humanity. And I would quote another one from Ramana Maharishi. He says that we're trying to fix the world by covering it with leather, because our feet hurt when we walk on earth because of the stones. So we are trying to cover the whole world with leather. But it's much easier to wear shoes. That means forget fixing people, forget the idea that they may change, and they may or may not. It's not up to us, it's not in our control. But the ego mind says, no, I can do certain things and make them change. And that is why we keep sticking to bad behaviors. We keep sticking to people who are not giving anything in return. That is how we deceive ourselves. The movement is inwards, going within. Why is this happening? Why am I doing this? And then subsequently to the most fundamental question, who am I? That is the final question. That is the fundamental inquiry. This is the last question ever. After this, all questions dissolve. But till the movement is only outward oriented, let me fix them, let me work on myself to become better for them, let me do this, let me do that, there will be constant suffering. But when I move inwards and I recognize where my true peace lies, then I do not worry about these things and I leave them to the universe. The one that gave the disabilities will take care of it. I'm here if they ask me compassionately, gently, for help. I'm here. I don't close the doors of my heart. But it is clear that I will not let them disrupt my peace too. My work, my expression in this world is unique. It is my pure energy, and I will be concerned with that. I'm concerned only with my own peace and what comes out of that peace, rather than on the other person. I hope this helps.